Yeah, so as I've campaigned across the city, I've heard loud and clear from residents that safe and healthy communities, equitable development, housing security, and basic city services are main concerns. And so I'd really like to take heart to that focus on those every day in City Hall. That platform will access and create momentum throughout neighborhoods to lead up sustainable options that we can build upon. Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Northlander, lifelong Kansas Cityan, actually, but born and raised in the Northland of the city. I grew up in Clay County, southern Clay County, and now live in southern Platte County. So I kind of span, the new second district. So I kind of know that district really well, growing up there and living there as well. But I grew up in a hardworking middle-class family, a union family, daughter of proud parents who worked really hard to put food on the table and put shelter over our heads, and so I understand the value of hard work. So I'm a wife and a mom of two. I am, like I said, not a typical politician. This is kind of my first delve at politics. I have worked for 15 years in landscape architecture side. I worked at a landscape architectural firm, and I am not a landscape architect, but worked in that firm primarily doing city planning and city and public engagement. So to me, it's really about listening, really listening to our citizens, really listening to our businesses, really listening to our stakeholders, our workers, and really involving those voices early on, and not just checking boxes like at the very end, but really having those heartfelt conversations and really, really listening and feeling that those voices are really vested in the decisions and policy making.
Amazing.
So number one, we must finally really get a grasp on our crime issues. I know this is really easier said than done, but we cannot just throw up our hands and say, like, this is too difficult. Like, this is just, too difficult. And I'm very, very serious about the balance between our police force and adding more police officers to the streets, and then also properly funding our wraparound services. So, and then we must also see that equitable development and housing security throughout the city. These issues go hand in hand because our economy is multifaceted, and our movement in one area with increased workforce housing, for example, impacts other areas of our economic well-being. And then finally, basic city services. It doesn't always sound sexy. It's not like a sexy policy thing, but that is something that residents really, really, really resonate with. If we're not delivering these to our residents, then we have a really hard time accomplishing anything else. And to that, I want to see really long-term planning as a tool that we can use to effectively deliver those basic city services.
Incredible. So it can be set back together.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. Honestly, we must really do better in that regard. That is something that I'm very passionate about. Our city cannot continue down the path that we are on right now. Issues like diversity, equity, inclusion have to be woven into the fabric of our city and looked upon as not just mere boxes to check. These areas in the areas in this neighborhood in particular are some of the most diverse in our city. And I'd like to take a look at DEI and take that a step further and add a B to that for belonging. So I want all Kansas Cityans to see themselves as valued members of the community and really safe in their authenticity. So this is a big question, and all candidates come in and say, we want to get started and we want to work on these policies and get going. And what I've heard the most is the first 30 days you're going to really acclimate yourself to City Hall and just kind of get the inner workings of City Hall, really work on those long-term relationships with our council colleagues and city staff to develop those relationships. So I want to do that. Definitely with the safety aspect, I want to meet with the Board of Police Commissioners and the police chief. I want to meet with the economic development officials, and then really provide leadership to a long-term strategic planning effort. In 60 days, I want to really focus more on public engagement by those 60 days. So I want to announce active listening sessions to increase engagement with residents, really dig into the city's current public engagement efforts, determine ways to enhance them, and then recruit potential candidates also to serve on boards and commissions. And then 90 days, just appointing and recommending diverse Kansasians to those boards and commissions, and then having conversations with appropriate stakeholders to learn what can be done and accelerate more housing stock of all time, because that's another one of my big platforms is housing and housing for all. So how we can accelerate more housing stock and stock of all kinds, housing of all kinds. So, and to that as well, the city goes through their city satisfaction survey around that time. So I really want to dive into that and evaluate that satisfaction survey based on our city services.
Amazing. So that's all the questions.
Okay.
You did amazing.
Okay.
So like I said, quick conversation, because I didn't really want to like ask too complicated of questions, just because I kind of want the audience of this to be like everyday voters that know nothing about politics.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's my audience, and so that's why it is such a quick kind of conversation about it, but I'm doing that so if like someone's on their way to work,
they can listen or watch.
Yes, and it's quick and it's not.
I love that.
And it's very clear as well.
Had I known that, I might have, I don't know, just done this a little differently. So I feel like
I am so sorry that wasn't more clear.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But do you have any questions for me about?
No. Do you think we should do any more that like I fumbled over some of them? Do you think
it's completely up to you. I think it was pretty good.
Okay.
It was very natural, and that's kind of what I'm looking for.